Hello, everyone. Welcome to 2025. I am so excited. I'm Dr. Christina Kishimoto, and I am here for our first edition of the new year. And how appropriate for me to have a dear friend with me, Dr. Brione Minor Mitchell, a school principal, not just a school principal, but also just this outstanding national leader, making waves in all the right ways in public education. I am so excited, Brianne, to have you with me as a friend, a colleague, a dear person to start off the year in conversation.
Thank you, Dr. Kishimoto. Thank you so much for having me on your show, and I'm excited to get into kind of the content and everything that's going to happen in the new year.
So 2025, New Year's is always like this big deal for my family and for me. Whether there's a reason for it to be a big deal or not, we make it a big deal. There's just closure for the year before, entry into the new year. I'm wondering how you're feeling coming into 2025.
I want to say I'm feeling hopeful for 2025. I'm feeling restful as well. I think this is going to be a big year, not only to reflect on the years prior, but also to reflect on where we're going in the future. And so I'm excited about 2025, but also I think this is a year of just rest and really opening our eyes and just learning, taking in so that we can get better.
I'm glad you used the word restful and rest within like the first minute of having this conversation. That's not used, a highly used word amongst educators, especially when you're leading schools, leading districts. And I'm wondering whether you did something during the holidays that made you feel more restful, or whether you're just good at this and you know how to center yourself in joy and rest.
No, I think it is, I think just since the pandemic, everyone has been through so much. And I think as a just a collective, even of educators, but a collective of women, a collective of people of color, a collective of people who have been through this pandemic, I think the new word out there is rest. It's restful, it is hopeful, it's all those things. And I really want to take that serious and really apply that to this year for me.
Oh, I love that. And, we in Voice for Equity and the network we have of women leading across the country, we have a big event coming up. It's the Tech Power and Equity Conference in 3 weeks' time. We're going to get together as leaders across the country to talk about what's happening in the world of technology and AI and the opportunities it brings, as well as how do we get ready for it? How do we leverage it? How do we take advantage of it? And I thought it was appropriate for us to have a conversation today about the work that you're doing. You're an elementary school principal. You have been leading into the work of technology and computer science. You are thinking deeply about AI. I wonder if you can kind of tell us a little bit about how you're leading in this space.
So, of course, I am a principal at an elementary school that is in almost the heart of Las Vegas, Nevada. Very, um, very in need. My population's very in need. We have about 150 kids who are considered homeless. We have about 100% considered students or families who are under the poverty line. So we are a very high need school. And I've worked with wonderful partners that were in the front of technology in computer science and AI. And one of the skills, because we know where we are going and heading in the future, it's actually already here. But one of the skills we wanted to empower our students and our community with was AI and computer science, because computer science kind of leads into some of that advanced technology such as AI. And so what we've been doing is setting up labs so that kids had hands-on experiences with with computer science, with technology, and then eventually with AI, so that they were uh, ahead of the game when they went to middle school and high school, ready to go. Because we know, and as you know, and as most educators know in the US, most of our students of color, most of our students who are affected by poverty, most of our students who are marginalized, they do not get those opportunities. So we want it to be one of those schools who provided those opportunities.
So that's interesting because so often we have been kind of caught up in the conversation around uh, developing the early skills that they miss, building in the social constructs and supports that they need. But you have been very intentional in being focused on rigor and opportunities and hands-on learning and exposure in a way that is admirable. I love the impact you're having. I love the mindset you bring. How does mindset play into this in terms of making sure you have the supports around you, you have a team around you to lead in this way instead of leading by intervention?
Yeah, so that's a very great question because I have to be honest, we've not always had people with that mindset that, we've had a lot of, well, kids need to learn how to read and write, and that is true. That's very true. But an additional, additionally than that is kids need to also learn the other skills that other kids are learning at the same time. So it's like it's a both for us. It's not an either or, it's a and they need these things as well. And people, in order to get people with that mindset, we had to be intentional on hiring. I can't tell you how many times we've had people who was gung ho with working with us, and then they figured out they didn't have the same mindset as us. And so they had to find other opportunities. And then we had to intentionally hire those who had the same mindset of not only can these kids do this, but they will be doing it and they will be doing it at this level, not just reading and writing and math, but also with the new skills that the 21st century and beyond kids are learning.
Now, I've heard you present before and you speak to the broader literacy,
Mhm.
right, that students need. So it's the reading and writing, certainly the literacy in math, right, the math skills. But you've also talked about the literacy in these computational skills and reasoning and thinking in other ways that brings in technology. And do you feel that that's the right direction to be taking the community, and how do you find the support to keep moving in this kind of way?
So here, this, and that's another great question. Here's the deal. Um, Technology is here, and even if no matter where you are, people are using it, right? People are interested in it. Whether it is gaming and kids are on the computers playing games, to we're talking on the cell phone, to we're in cars that are now either led electronically or they don't even have a driver anymore. They're being driven like we're in that digital age. And so that's something that all communities are affected with. And so in order to keep kids interested in school, because the one thing I did mention is we were a school, and we still are a school with a high chronic absenteeism issue. And that's because they're not interested in school, right? So we wanted to keep our kids interested in school. We had to find things that they were interested in. Technology is one of those things. And through technology is how we try to improve reading and writing and those skills because they're so interested in the technology world. So um, and this year, I got to be honest, we haven't done as much as we wanted to because we've adopted new curriculum, so we kind of focused a little bit on that. And since then, we had a little bit of a drop and an incline, and a not just a drop in our scores, but also we've increased in our chronic absenteeism. So we know that we have to go back focusing on things that kids are more inclined to do, which is our drone systems and our AI systems and our computer systems. They will be almost sick to like a dog and come to school still when they are doing those things. So and that's how we get them hooked in school. And learning through those things. So as you're coding, you're learning math skills. As you're reading how to put this drone together and how to fly it, you're actually reading and using instructional skills to do that. Like it goes together for us. And so that's how we've been able to kind of incorporate the both and really have the buy-in from the community and get the kind of the skills up for kids as well.
So, Brian, this is, it's interesting to hear you talk about bringing back in, because you had to take a little bit of a step back, the things that kids are interested in. And yet, the things you're mentioning are computer science skills and coding and drones and the engineering behind that. Those are high level, high capacity skills that require high levels of literacy and math skills and science, critical thinking, computational thinking, and so forth. So bringing that back is interesting, bringing it back because it brings kids to school. So kids want to come to school to do the interesting, complicated, high level work. I mean,
Mhm.
that's what I'm hearing from you. And so
Right.
designing sounds like we need, as adults, need to kind of think about how we're designing for the reality of today, the
Yes.
opportunities of today.
Yes. And when you're thinking about that, and this is why it goes back to that second question that you asked me about the mindset of adults, because you have, as educators, I feel like we have two types of educators. We have those with the mindset, and then we have those without that mindset. And it is teaching those without that mindset how to kind of switch theirs. And then it is keeping those with it and enhancing their skills so that they're able to develop and enhance kids' skills with all of the technology and AI components within education. And so that's been its own thing. And I almost wish that other companies would also have that in mind as they develop reading and math textbooks and curriculum. But we've had to do some of that work, that groundwork ourselves, just to keep up with things.
Well, it sounds like you're not only keeping up with things, but you may be potentially pulling others along, including partners who can be very helpful, but also need to be in this really steep learning curve. There's a lot of speculation around how AI is going to impact students, it's going to impact our learning design, it's going to impact education and schooling. Uh, it sounds like our elementary students are already thinking about this, even if we are a little slower as adults to kind of think about, what this means for our work, our design, our leadership. Are elementary students thinking about AI?
I think so. It's not on the forefront of their brain, but they're so used to using it. Like, it's a everyday thing for them. So, um, and not only are they always using it, not only has it become a tool of learning, especially at home. So if you have a little device and you want to learn how to do something, they're on that computer and they're learning a skill from either AI or from some other some website. Like they're learning skills. So it has become a part of kind of their learning schema at home. So is it on the forefront of their brain? No, but it's the way of learning now. It's just the way that it's become a part of life. Um, and I know for high school and middle school, and I know you didn't ask this question, but I know for high school, or middle school, it becomes a class. So then it becomes the forefront of their thinking, right? Because now I have to take this computer science class and pass it, and then it's really incorporated in high school. It's a part of some of their curriculum. But for elementary school kids, I think they just become a beast at using computer skills. So
That's fantastic to hear about the ways in which they're thinking about it and the way that you're thinking about integrating it, bringing it in, leveraging that for the learning design. The the reality, though, is that since the Bush administration and every administration after that, we've had high stakes testing kind of at the center and core of our accountability systems. And so our accountability systems are not about whether you can apply these complex learning and thinking designs, but it's really about these exams and these tests that assess different areas of knowledge. Uh, and during that time period, the intent, right? It was to try to close the achievement gap, to be accountable for that, right? So intention certainly was there to do the right thing. But the issue is really that there remains a gap between how students of color are performing as their non-student of color peers, mostly along lines of SES and opportunities. And so we talk about the opportunity gap. We haven't fixed that through these accountability systems. We've made progress in some areas. Are you concerned as a leader what this now means to introduce a technology that maybe won't be as ubiquitous as it is right now to kind of get on and play with ChatGPT or Claude AI or any of those systems, but at the heart of instruction and access to jobs and what happens in college and who has access to that? Are you concerned that the opportunity gap will broaden, or are you hopeful that there are ways in which we can still move the needle on closing the opportunity and achievement gap?
At
That's a
every,
huge question, you
that's
know.
a huge question, and this is how I'm going to answer it. At every, um, when I give my presentation at every convention or every learning opportunity, whatever, wherever I am, that is the number one question that educators, superintendents, they ask is number one, the opportunity gap, and then is it closing? And then number two, how do we keep our kids? And I usually hear this from people who are over schools with predominantly Black and brown kids. How do we keep them from cheating? Or how do we, it's almost like, how do we not use AI? So I'm going to answer this question in a roundabout way, but hopefully I get to the point. I feel like number one, AI has been out since 1950 and probably even before that. So people with access had access to some of these wonderful interventions, and they've been using these things to help them do other things and get other places where people who mostly are people who are marginalized or people who didn't have access, let's just put it that way, didn't have access, did not get to use these things, and therefore um almost aided to me to the opportunity gap. If you don't have the tools and to do the wonderful things group A is doing, you're not going to do what group A is doing. You're going to keep being in group B. And I do think that it is a way to kind of introduce the great equalizer, right? It's, it gives more opportunity to those who didn't have that opportunity. So I always caution those with this question to not be afraid and not limit, because group A who had this access didn't limit themselves. They actually improved through this access and improved the AI component itself. So why are we limited? Why are we limiting the access to group B? And that's always been my delivery in that. Yes, will kids use it to write papers? They probably will. So maybe we need to teach them not to. However,
Or
I'm
teach them the writing process through the AI. I mean,
yes,
it's like a whole mindset shift, right? We got to think
yes.
differently.
That's exactly it. Even for me, like when I was doing, I sent about 20 or 30 emails a day, like to my staff or to other people. And when I do that, I want to be very clear in my message. There's just so much in there. I want to be extremely clear. So I run it through Chat GPT probably 4 and 5 times. And then I'm like, I don't like the way this says. Can you make it sound like me? And Chat GPT literally can make it sound exactly like me with the nuances in my language and my culture. And I mean, it is just exactly like me. And I send it out, and oh my gosh, it's very clear to the reader, and yet it didn't take away from me. And I do think that kids are able to, if you teach them, they're able to do the same thing. They are able to write that paper or write paragraphs of that paper and ask AI to help them with more clear, concise thoughts. It's a teaching tool. I can use it as a teaching tool. I just think our educators need to be, and our superintendents and those who are over districts need to understand that and really help kids use it because they're going to use it anyway. But now we need to help kids use it in a way that makes their work same as Group A's work, and so that they can perform in that job market eventually.
Yeah, and you mentioned the job market, and the job market is where a lot of the conversation is happening right now. We're in the world of education, so we're thinking about the classroom, we're thinking about efficiencies and operations of complex systems. But in the job market broadly, education is such a tiny slice of the conversation in AI. The conversation is about what the workforce will look like and which workers in the workforce will be most impacted. And we know that there are some jobs that are at higher risk of being eliminated or being changed to a degree that some of our own parents and families in our most struggling communities may be impacted in outsized ways. Now, that's not true across every like service industries will continue to still be important and may not be impacted as much, but there are some other areas that will. And so as our families get impacted potentially with changing job markets and the classroom starts to change as well in terms of learning design, as the school principal, how are you kind of putting yourself in spaces to think about how do you better prepare parents also to be part of the conversation about your responsibility as education, not the job market, but be better prepared to be there for their kids, to have those conversations, knowing that it will also build their skills as parents out in the
This
job.
was one of our first, when we decided to implement more of a technology-based school, one of the first things when I met with our partnership, and one of the people I met with was Yuli. Um, when I met with our partners, one of the things that we talked about is our job market is changing, and parents do understand that because they're in the either in a field where it's changing for them or they're looking for jobs, right? And so one of the skills is that are you computer literate, right? Or are you, so they do understand that for themselves. So how we've been able to really get them, and I don't want to say everybody, but for most people to come along is if you need this for you, guess what? They're going to need it too. They're going to need it. And this is how we are preparing to teach them. We have a computer science teacher. We have these things. So this is why we need you to bring them to school every day because they get the opportunity of learning the things that you need even to get a job. So that's kind of been our selling point with our parents. The other bit that we've been talking about, we haven't gotten it off the ground, but maybe someone else can pioneer this is even in elementary, especially in a area that is low SES, very impoverished area, we want to offer some of those classes to parents because we are not just supporting your kids, we want to support you too. And that has also been a conversation on the table. Just because just even holding not necessarily a degree, but a certificate will probably make you more competitive in the job market so that you can take care of your family and really help your kids and even help them understand technology in the way that they need to so that they can go to that eighth grade computer science class and be successful after they leave elementary school. So these are all the conversations we've been having with our families, with our partners, with our teachers. And it's out there now. Have we been successful with full implementation? I'm not going to lie to you, we haven't, but it's a conversation and it's on the minds of the people that work at our school.
And your critical role as the education leader in your school and also as a part of the education team for the district uh, can't be, stated enough. And yet it can't just be the school system. You just spoke about just the impact of these kind of innovations and changes in technology on families and communities and the future workforce, right? And that is so much broader, right, than just your mission as part of the Clark County School District and the leadership team there. And so I love how you bring in partners constantly. There's also partnerships, right, beyond. And I'm wondering, even from a policy perspective, in terms of how Clark County School District is putting its arms around its scope of responsibility and whether the system is leading with policy that then you're working under, or whether it's leading with innovation, which allows your work at the school level to eventually inform district policy. I'm wondering which approach is happening there.
I'm wondering the same. We're both wondering. The beauty about this is, I can't speak for the school district itself, but I will tell you our state superintendent, our state, um, and all the people that work underneath her are really looking at this policy and have been really in the forefront of trying to get this work into schools. And so I think as it trickles down from the state and policy, basically, because they've gotten it in eighth grade, and there is a person that I work with at the district level. So I don't want to say I don't want to answer for the district. There's a person that I work with at the district level that has been like really taking the reins and going forth with this work. But they've done a lot of this work in high school and middle school, and yet you don't really have it in elementary where that's where those foundational skills are and probably needs to start there. But they're thinking about it. It has been a conversation. But the state has really been on the forefront of, hey, we kind of need it in all places and spaces to get our workforce ready, to get our students ready. And so, with that being said, I do feel like policy is coming first versus innovation. And I think um, both need to be kind of in the forefront. I think there needs to be innovation and policy at the same time.
To, I appreciate your response to that question because it's a response that's pretty common across the nation right now. Why? Because unlike some other policy areas where it was really obvious that the policy should come first or the innovation should come first, this is an area that's really tricky because the access to things like ChatGPT and Claude AI and some of those LLMs and those opportunities have it just, overnight became available broadly without a lot of understanding of what is this, what does it do, how can I use it, what are the opportunities, how do I keep myself safe from it? Like we had more questions and understanding about what it is. And so it's a back and forth, right, in each state. And so you do have these various levels. You have school level, you have district level, you have state level, and then you have legislators as well trying to figure out, do we lead with policy? Do we have policy lag and lead with innovation? And it's a tough thing because we know that AI is changing. Our understanding of it in the marketplace is changing every day. And so, education doesn't shift that quickly to be able to keep up with a daily change, right, in definition. And so it is a difficult space to be in. I wonder how you keep yourself informed. How do you keep yourself informed? What are the spaces you go into? And who do you interact with so that you are best informed to best serve your students?
So my space has really been with a lot of my partners. I think partners have been so key for me, but also um there are some educators, I will say, they may not teach it to their kids, but they are using this space like n never before. I mean, I have some teachers who are able to use AI technology almost like they work for Microsoft. I don't know, like you almost want to fire the top and put teachers in there. Like there are some people who are using this space so fluidly, and it is just mind-boggling. And I think just watching them, myself using it, and then myself just being around people who are just, this is what they do, and they own this space, has really helped me not only be on the forefront but also put me in other spaces that help me learn and be on the forefront as well. Because someone always knows someone, right? We're 6 degrees away from Kevin Bacon. So somebody always knows someone, and you get invited to places and spaces. Yeah, and they're like, check this out. Do you have a struggling reader? Hey, we have a whole thing that helps struggling readers. And it is a whole application, and you're like, oh my gosh. And it's AI ran. Like, there is a component there that is there, it's always learning from the student to really help the student itself. And it changes because that's, to me, the AI component is that it's able to adapt to the learner itself and really help that learner go to that next level. And so that I would have never known that without being in a particular space and place at a particular time with a particular friend who was using this to its fullest. So it's about your connections, number one, and it's about going to places, a technology conference, being there, and you might learn a lot from the technology conference, but you'll also um really connect with people who are in that work, and then that's where the real learning comes, is that connection. And they put you in other spaces and places as well, and then you just start using, and you just become a community. So it's really the community.
I mean, that was powerfully said. You can't lead in isolation. I mean, the best work happens through these networks, through these partnerships. I have to make sure I pull out a statement you made about some of your teachers who are engaging with AI in ways that are like surprising you, and you're like learning so much from them. I mean, I think that there's this opportunity for teachers to re-engage with the field of education and be excited about it again in some different ways. And we know we need to keep innovating and growing our field of education and teaching to make sure that we don't have the vacancies that we have right now in the field and the questions about where the field is going. There's a lot coming into play here. And as I hear you talk about these opportunities, I get excited about them as opposed to fearing what we need to be careful with and still fix and make sure we have safety measures in place. But the opportunity for innovation is just tremendous. And I'm wondering if you would close us out today with some advice to your peer leaders around those opportunities and how you're thinking about it.
So how I want to say, number one, some of our teachers, especially our new teachers, our new educators that are coming into the field of education, um, just like our students, we've grown up. I want to say we, but really they. I'm adding myself to it. We've kind of grown up in the field of education. We grew up with computers. They grew up with computers. And now I think the AI and computer technology has gone to the next level, and they're not afraid of using it. And so to embrace that, instead of to shy away, to embrace that, to me is the only way to go, especially if you're leading a school, if you're a principal or you are higher level than a principal. Leading schools, leading districts, we have to learn to embrace what people are already using, and which is technology, and especially AI. They're already using it. They're already writing lesson plans with it. They're already sending emails that go through ChatGPT like I do. They're already embedding that in their work. So why not get in front of it? Why not embed that into the work that we already do? Because like you said earlier, it makes the job easier, it makes you more efficient and more effective, and it takes education to the next level. So why not already be doing or be in the front or the forefront of this in your district or in your schools?
Well, because I am older than you, and we won't say how much older, I can say that my days of no computers to desktop computers or word processing systems that just blew our mind in terms of being able to type on a word processor rather than use correction tape on a typewriter. That's embarrassing to say, but yes, that's the generation I'm in, to where I am now, interacting with, partnering with multiple generations, experiencing this AI impact and this AI generation now that we're in. It's mind blowing, right, to
Yeah.
say the least. And but like you said, the teachers coming in now, the kids coming in now are all coming in from a computing, gaming that generation. And I think the opportunities for innovation are here front and center. And I'm excited that leaders like you are leading schools through this time period.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. And and I just wanted to add one more thing. I've had conversations um with curriculum companies, and they are even thinking about how do we change. And yes, they have things on computer. Yes, you can read but it's still not interactive enough. It's not catching up with what's going on in the technology world. And they're thinking, how can we change the way we actually write curriculum so that it catches up with the technology world? So it's out there, like the question is out there. It's just how do we all embrace it?
Well, Dr. Brian Miner Mitchell, I am so excited that you are representing this whole generation of thought leaders leading in schools and districts today. I'm glad we had this conversation. I invite folks to come and be part of our conference and hear you present, along with just amazing women who are leading across our nation. And I thank you for what you do for our nation's students and young people every single day.
Thank you. Thank you.